Good morning, everybody. How you doing?
Morning.
So, um, so today's concept is a little bit of something that I borrowed or stole from a uh, a guy, and I think he's in the mortgage industry, and he has this thing, "Win by noon," and it just struck me as if we all put systems in place for our teams and we're role models, that we could really get the most important things done by noon and and feel like we've accomplished stuff in our day. Um, I'll just wait a minute for some more people to pop on here if they are. Um, so, Michael, how are you? You doing many open houses there down in Florida, Michael Gopi?
Yes, yes, we did one on Saturday.
Yeah, and how's activity picking up or?
Yeah, it's picking up. I would say we also did a lot of door knocking to the neighbors, to introduce ourselves and let them know there was an open house. So we were able to capitalize on potential opportunity, with other people that want to sell. But I would say Palm Beach market has always been consistent. I mean, the demand in our area hasn't slowed down, truly.
Very good. And Glenn, your team do any open houses this weekend?
Sorry, I was unmuting. Yeah, we had four. I did two myself.
A lot of activity, or is it summer doldrums?
Better than the prior weeks for sure. The one that I did was a 2 hour, and we had 22, and then the other one had five. It's all about price point.
2 hour and 22. So the one with five higher price?
Higher price. Yep.
Okay. Um, well, I mean, I think 5 to 22 is a pretty reasonable normal market, right? I mean, 50 that we used to get is a little bit unmanageable. Um, so let me just get started with my theme for today, which is win by noon. And it's all about, having structure on your team and your own life. And I think a lot of people won't follow what we say if we don't do it. So, vision, mastery, and standards are like three things that I wrote down. And, the vision is, well, what does win by noon look like for you? Because I think we have more control of our day in the morning than we do later on in the day when stuff starts to happen. And, we can easily implement structure. If you put on your calendar you wanted to go to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, no real estate business is ever going to conflict with that. If you put 7 or 8, you're probably unlikely to have any interference with that. But if you put 1 o'clock, there's going to be constant conflicts with what comes up. So we need to have a vision for what does this look like? Are we going to be checking in with our team on a 5 minute daily huddle? Is it going to be a group text message? I think Paul Texera, if he's still on, I think he does a lot of group texting. Um, just trying to think. I was talking to somebody who's likely to be coming on board. She does a 20-minute meeting with each team member each week, which, as your team grows, can become a little bit complicated. But we need to define what our vision is. Once we have our vision, we need to create some standards. And the standards are the things that keep us from going insane. In other words, if the standard is we're all going to, prospect or do something towards growing our business for a certain period of time, if people don't do it, we don't go crazy because we know that they don't fit our standard, and we need to make some decisions. And And the other piece I put into the equation for winning by noon is mastery. And you know, without perfecting yourself, you're probably not going to do it consistently because you're not going to get the outcome or the result. So I think we like the concept of like feeling like you've won the day by before lunchtime and everything else is kind of gravy. I mean, it's, you know, in my opinion, it's like that, you know, pre-vacation rush when you need to get everything organized and done so that you can have solace when you go away. And I think that's probably a little bit more old school when we weren't as connected as we are now. But I remember, you know, 30 years ago, used to get everything lined up and written down because I couldn't check my email from my phone, and I didn't want to be bothered because, to be honest with you, I don't even think I had cell phones were probably $1 a minute then, so I was not as anxious to be on the phone or be bothered. But now I think you know, winning the day and getting into that habit, you know, it's like going to the gym once a day or 3 times a week. It becomes a habit, and then you see the outcome.
You know, Rob, I don't mean to interrupt, but the morning is the best time to really start making your calls and doing the things that are going to be productive because I notice Ryan, when Ryan does his calls in the morning, he's upbeat, he stands up, he walks around, he talks to people. If I have him call in the afternoon, I can see he's just sluggish. He doesn't have that attitude. So the morning is the best time to do it, is when you're fresh.
Yeah, and you get that monkey off your back early in the day, right?
Absolutely. If you feel accomplished, you know, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, at least you did something productive today, you know?
What time does Brian start calling?
About 9:30. Around 9:30, 10 o'clock. He'll go to about 11:30, maybe to noon. But we have the dialer, so you know, he just goes through 300 calls and he has about maybe 5 to 6 conversations a day.
Okay. So he's already starting to have a routine. And I know, Glenn, your team isn't doing cold calls much at all, correct?
Almost zero.
And most of your engagement is responsive to either outreaches or social posts. Is that right?
Pretty much everything is based on some kind of a warm. So someone's inquired somewhere, or they're following up on something that they've met in person.
And then, do you have, or do you speak to your team about what the appropriate like follow-up is? Because I think a lot of times I've heard, you know, sometimes even very talented individuals say, oh, I called them back twice. They know how to reach me if they want to. They don't have a system of follow-up. Do you have a system of follow-up or a standard?
We do. And I think, you know, one of the most important things is I have zero time to go and proactively listen to calls. I refuse to do that, or adults. So we've created this environment where if they feel a call didn't go well, they send me the person's name to review it and then give them feedback. And I'll do it's created an environment where they're saying that call didn't feel so well. I don't know what went wrong. And then they send me the name, and by the end of the day, they'll have my feedback. And I often send a video back and tell them how I saw the call would go. I role play it out for them, and I'll get probably 10 a week. I know it's all value. If we never ever, there's all kinds of things we have that you never say, and the never say list is longer than what you say.
So like, what are one or two of the obvious takeaways on a macro level from the calls that you listen to, Glenn?
Hi, this is Glenn Baker from Remax Select. Click. Everyone who says that, the call goes sideways from that moment because no one wants to talk to a realtor, right? Every single call that I have is pretty much starts with them saying that they're with Remax Select. And it's a force of habit that they have to train out of themselves. That's probably the number one individual one. And then the next one is that they're not providing value right out of the gate. They're you know, when they're calling on a particular call type, they're using the wrong script to provide value.
So those are the two, and I would agree. You know, we don't want to mislead people, but when you say it's Rob Lazar from Remax Select calling, you're already putting up a roadblock, you know, in the beginning. And when you say, hey, it's Rob, I'm reaching out to you or I'm following up on your comment, I want to see how I can help you. I think it really changes the paradigm and changes the tone of the call. And are you finding the 10 calls coming from like half of your team, or is it evenly distributed, Glenn?
It's now evenly distributed. Initially, we created this process on our regular daily calls, the 15-minute huddles, and there was resistance because everyone felt like they were being like, oh, they're going to make fun of me, and then ultimately I would take the examples from the calls and say, do I have permission to review this with everyone on the call? And then I'd go through it, and no one ever says no, right? And then they're like, well, no one made fun of me there. So then the next person sends me their call. So we created this environment because it's uber competitive. Like there's people who will not make a live call in the presence of another person, right? But they'll send me their call and say, how do I make this better? And it's creating a permissive environment to do it. It is not easy. I have to tell you, one of the hardest things I've done.
And Glenn, what are your thoughts about people? Like, what percentage of your people don't want to make a call in front of somebody? And is it something because they're not prepared? Or is it something that the culture embraces?
Mindset. So a couple of them came from corporate world where calls are bad. A couple of them came from collections where they think all calls are bad. It's all a mindset thing. And some of them are just so self-conscious. Like it's the one that prims and propers their hair before every video. And you know, you have such a different mix of people. And the key is that, you know, there's no way to I'm not sitting with them, right? I'm not. When I say that, I mean, I'm not. I don't care what happens. I'm not spending that kind of useless time. I just feel like it's not useful time. But I am absolutely going to help them if they ask for the help. And if you create an environment that does it, they self-serve.
Right. And now, you know, Glenn, it seems like if I can have permission to share our conversation, it seems like the two challenges that you have are, one is, you know, where's the boundary for the existing team members, right? Because you could probably double your time with your existing team if you didn't intentionally decide on how you're spending your time. Is that fair to say? Like your comment about you can't listen to all the calls and babysit is so true. You know, I guess you could spend a lot more time on the existing team members, or you could figure out a way to become more efficient, correct?
100%. And in fact, some of the Tom Tool stuff that you brought to me, I changed about 2 months ago, and the time that's giving it back to me is phenomenal.
And what in particular are you referring to from Tom Tool that you could share with the group?
Office hours. So I have a morning call, 15 minutes, and it's a no BS call. It's not a happy hour. It's a get to the numbers call. And then I have 3 days a week. I have office hours around midday. And if you have something that is non-urgent, meaning that it's not going to kill your deal today, you bring it to that call one time, don't call me one off. Don't call me here and there. You come to that call. It's I sit on an open Google Meet, and you can ask your questions. And if you get on and I know it's going to take a while, say, hey, I'll give you a call back. I'm going to finish up with these guys if I get 2 people on a call. But that has stopped all of the things that take me off track during the day of these onesie twosie calls. And everything else, I broker out to the admin team.
And then the second piece that's been a little slower for you is the attraction or recruiting piece, correct?
Yeah, it's just been brutally slow. I need 32 agents.
Right. And your I guess your approach or your outreach, you have access to the market share reports. Like what are you using to identify and connect with these people at this point?
I'm using Market View Broker. And I tell you, like, it's the most stressful platform I have because I look at these agents who are doing business and all of their numbers are down and none of them want to talk. It's like, it's absurd to me. Like I'm here, I'm going to help you. And they don't want to talk. It's crazy.
So you reach out, you call them, and like, do you mind sharing like what that sounds like?
Sure. So, like I placed 8 calls last week, and 4 of them answered, which you have to answer is my first thing. That's my first criteria. So when the 4 that answered, I had the conversation with them. I said, "How are you doing?" And all of them were like, "Oh, we're doing good." And I said, "Oh, interesting. Well, I was just perusing through a system I have, and I saw how you did last year and the year before, and what you're looking like this year." And they all don't understand how bad they're doing, right? They just don't. So, and once I got to that point, I realized I was hitting it head on, and that wasn't. I intimidated them. Like, it was very clear I intimidated them because I knew more than they did. So all 4 calls crashed and burned at that point. And now this week, I've rethought my approach. Unfortunately, I'm sitting here with the knowledge of what they have, right? Business wise, they don't have that knowledge. And I feel like I need to educate them, but that's probably not the answer. The answer is I need to show them the value of being on the team and why it's going to help them. I've really not had success with recruitment. I'm going to figure it out, but it has been a long, hard road here. Frustrating.
So Glenn, I think you have the solution. And I think it's like an indirect approach. And if you were to talk to those people and say, "Hey, introduce yourself. I just want to congratulate you on your success the past couple of years. What 1 or 2 things, are most challenging to you?" And these people might be like, "Well, why the hell are you doing this?" Say, "Hey, I just wanted to get to know some of the people, and if I can make a contribution, so be it," right? And I don't think people are going to be, second level suspicious beyond saying, "Hey, there's no strings attached. I just wanted to share with you some things I found and find out what's challenging." And I can prove to you that will be effective because you put out a whole game plan at the Remax event, Glenn, and so few people took it to the second level with you, right? They didn't. Did anybody come and take you to lunch or meet with you in person?
Not one.
Not one.
And also, I mean, I tracked the website that I purposely put up for just that event, and 6 people have looked at it. And I gave them all the tools and the process documents. Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is, it just blows my mind. I would think that a bunch of people would want to just, try to look behind the curtain and see what you're doing secretly, but you often to open the curtain and say, "Come take a look," and very few takers.
Yeah, and I think you actually framed some things that give me something to think about too. I come into this going, my team doesn't make cold calls. We're a very positive, upbeat, non-miserable team, right? And we're highly productive, right? 54 deals in last quarter. And I look at it and like, how do they not get that value? And I think that you're right. In my eyes, I'm like, just take a peek and everything, and you'll understand. And why wouldn't you want that? Why would you want to beat at the phones if you don't have to beat at the phones? And I even have that, Massachusetts location, right? He's on his 6th deal, and he's a net new agent, remote, and he's done 6 deals in 3.5 months. And I'm like, we've proven the model works, but I just can't. I haven't articulated, and I think I have to come more from that contribution than why aren't you listening? And I have to change my mindset a bit about that.
Right. So you have to find the mix of humility and value, right? And say, "Hey, you know what? I'm working with, what do you have now? 11 people, Glenn, on your team? Glenn, is it 11 now or no?"
I'm sorry, I missed what you said, Rob. Yeah, you broke up for a second.
How many on your team now? 11?
11 and 2 admin.
Okay, so I just wanted to share what's been working for the 11 people on my team, and they've made a few minor changes, and basically define the outcome of the call as enhancing the relationship instead of attracting them to listen to what you have to sell, right? And focus on, building a relationship with, if you talk to 4 people a week, you do that for 10 weeks, you have 40 people a year. And you basically just try to, add some value. And then when they're frustrated, they're going to engage you. And it's, you can't predict which ones of those 40 are going to be responsive. It's the same thing that, Fazia and Adona and I are trying to do on the recruiting side, is you build relationships, and then they're gonna say, hey, tell me more about that, right? And that's when you have your real opportunity to assess if they're a good fit for your team. Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, everybody's not a good fit for everybody's team, because some of them will be, like a cancer, and some of them will, bring something to the party. They'll bring something to the event. And your 15-minute call, Glenn, what's the attendance like on that?
People apologize when they miss it.
And
It's like a cult.
what's the agenda for the call?
We review dials. So we review how many calls each person made against their goals. And it's not each individual. I ask them who hit their orange. Orange is the color that we have for whoever hit their number that they needed for the day. And then we talk about appointments met and appointments set. And that dashboard is available for all people to see, but we review it together. And it kind of creates this environment where no one wants to be the odd person out that didn't do it.
So your indicators are appointments set and appointments met. And I would say, if they're honest, the set appointments number is probably more important than the met appointments, right?
It is, but remember, all 3 are interdependent because one leads to the other. If you're doing a ton of conversations and setting up appointments, but they never meet you, then clearly it's a qualification issue. If you're setting the appointment and then they don't meet, that it's a matter of trying to figure out what the dialogue is to get them to make sure they meet you. But our ratios are extraordinarily high. 10% of the conversations are converted on the average across the team to an appointment set, and then 98% meet us. So it wasn't that way in March, and the last 3 months it's been very consistent.
And the appointments that you go on are all, they have a specific need that you have identified. They want to buy or sell or rent.
Yes,
Or
it's really buying and selling.
So 10% meet rate, I would think that, probably only, and they're calling people who've expressed some
That's a
level of
10%
interest.
set rate. 10% set rate.
Right, but so the people that they're calling are people who've expressed some level of interest, or are they calling Sphere?
Correct. No, it goes back to warm. So in some way, shape, or form, we have contact with them. So it could be Sphere. It could be someone they met at an open house. It could be someone they met a year ago at an open house.
And does your team do you have a calendar for like Sphere contacts? And if I bought a house or sold a house with the Morris agent team, am I getting a call in 90 days after the transaction? Is it random? Does it depend on who I transacted with?
No, that's a trigger that's automatic. So when we finish the transaction checklist, the last thing we do is put them on a 12-month campaign. And the 12-month campaign has very specific things, like day 3 is you don't call, you don't write, I miss you, a text. Day 30 is, hey, you've been in the house a little while. I'm sure you can use some contractors. Here's the list, but if you need something specific, I'm going to give you a call and I'll let you know. So it's throughout the first year, that is, and then they go on to a longer term campaign. That stuff's autopilot.
But there is,
and I should add, the way that they get that is, it's not a calendar. They get a task in Lofty that goes on their task list, and Kriza watches it and lets me know when people don't do them.
And just to be real clear, there's a lot of setup work to building out this system, correct?
I forget, but it's astounding. Like, I couldn't quantify the hours.
Right. And having it imperfect, but having a system is the start, and it's never going to be perfect until you tweak it over time. And I'm sure you're still, making tweaks and adjustments, correct?
Oh yeah, and agents sometimes come back and yell at me, and they're mad about some kind of contact or something like that. But it's better than no contact, and I kind of change their mindset that way.
Gotcha. So, so Lynn, how are you connecting the team together? And I know you have some, um, agents that have other jobs as well. Is that challenging
Hi, good
or how
morning,
can I help?
everybody. Yeah, so we have actually I do it every Monday after I leave this call, I go to the office. We all meet 10:30 every Monday morning in person, unless somebody has um, another obligation, which is not another job. It's typically if they have a listing appointment or closing, something like that. We spend about an hour. We have a printed agenda. We either do, well, we're always positive, so we start with something positive, and then I'm just available through the week. I try to meet with everybody one-on-one during the week. Sometimes it's just casual and it gives us a chance to catch up. Um, yeah, that's pretty much how our week runs with meeting. The challenge with the people that work, yes. One of the team members is working very hard to be in a position where that second job is not necessary at all, and he is almost there. And then a couple have families that they have to support, so they still maintain their part-time job and they work around it, but that can be challenging, yes.
So, the good news, and this is the really good news, is, you know, the high return activities don't take that much time. And the people who, you know, are doing other jobs because they feel they have to, if they just spend their time doing the activities that nobody wants to do, but are gonna
Right.
move the needle, like that's where the true leadership piece comes in. And working with Glenn, I think that there's like an aha moment. I don't know how I can define where that was. But initially people resist accountability. Okay. Like they're like,
Yes.
why are you you know, you'll hear things like, why are you micromanaging me? You know, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But you're sitting there scratching your head saying, all right, well, you didn't do a transaction in 2 months. How are you taking care of your lifestyle? Or if you have a family, how are you taking care of your family? And I
Right.
just want to help versus them feeling like you're just nagging them. And there was a moment and a point in time, and I'm looking at, you know, Patrick and Chopper, and I see some of your team members are feeling the same way. You know, one perhaps not, but I think most of them are feeling that the accountability and caring is inseparable. Okay. And, you know, your success, you need to be able to share with them and say, hey, the good news is, you know, most agents, you know, make most of their money in 10 to 20% of their time. And since you only have 30% of your time, you need to make sure that you're spending all that time efficiently so you can generate the opportunities to do what you truly want to do. All right. For me, you know, I feel like sometimes I want it more than they do, but maybe I'm just not a great communicator. And, you know, our team members, you know, should be buying a house every year and having an investment in a portfolio for all the hard work that we do and all the opportunity that's before us. If we're looking to buy a house, right, that reticular activator is going to be telling other people it's safe to buy houses, right? Or at least it's going to be creating an awareness, right? Because most of the people that we sold the primary residence to do not own an investment property through us. And I'm going to say it's probably 95% that don't. And the 5% that do probably called us up and said, hey, my grandmother passed away. I want to buy an investment property. It's not because we've put it out there and, you know, we put that vibe out there and we let them know that we're here to help. Um, most team members that you have that are trying to get rid of a second job, Lynn, probably
Yes.
can't even fathom buying an investment property, but you have to stretch to grow, right?
Sure.
So, you know,
What's interesting, Rob, is that the person on my team that pushes the least does not have second job. That's part of my challenge with one particular team member, trying to, and maybe somebody can give me some advice. The consistency that we talk about, the support that we offer, sometimes is just not used.
Well, I mean, maybe you need to do like a 1, 3, and 5 year business and life plan, because the one doesn't happen in a vacuum, right?
We've
Like-
done our business plans, just doesn't want to stick to it.
It's,
So anybody that has some advice on pushing the one challenging team member
oh,
in a positive way, I'd be happy to take that advice.
I'm down there tomorrow through Thursday. Maybe we can meet for a coffee and I can,
Would love that.
listen, learn and make a contribution. That's
I
what
would
I'd
love
love to
that.
do.
Yes.
Before we hang up here, Michael Gopi, are any of your team members thinking about buying investment properties yet or no?
Yes, they are. You mean for themselves?
For themselves, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I connected. We have a plan with Frank from Auto Mortgage, with Francis, Tony, Barbara, and Jenny, and we have a plan for them to buy. They're actually, believe it or not, all of them, 3 out of 4 of them is renting. So Frank is gonna help them buy their first property. So he's setting a plan up. But their long-term goal after to buy their primary is to have investment properties.
Right. So,
Very nice.
and Michael, you have a very hungry, newer to the industry team that is fun to watch. And I think they're watching every move you make and they're listening to every word you say. So I commend you on you being inspirational, and I hope that they stretch their goals and do things that you might think, hey, you don't even own a house, and in 3 years you want to have 3 rentals. Well, once you have that goal, it manifests on your activities.
I
Alright.
agree, and that's actually my goal, my personal goal, to build my investment property. So and it's good to share. Another thing I want to add is Chef Baker. I never said this in the call,
Chief
but
Baker,
he
Chief Baker.
Chief Baker, yeah, it says
Okay.
Chef Chief Baker.
Yeah.
I appreciate his input too. I mean, he's very knowledgeable, and every call he shares great input with the team. So thanks for that too.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah, anytime. And anything I can send over, I will.
I mean, I think as good as Glenn is, we're always learning together, and when you stop learning, you become stale, and you become those people like Glenn is looking at saying, what the heck happened? You don't even know that your business is in decline until you can't pay your bill. Like they're just that far backwards. Well, for our Florida team, good.
I was gonna say, just Rob, one thing. So I mentioned that I was really, really frustrated with how I was doing recruiting. Well, over the weekend, I last Friday I did a 5-hour training with the team on the buyer broker agreements and how you talk, how you dialogue, how you actually write it, how concessions work, the whole 9 yards. 5 full hours we did. And we didn't talk once about our buyer's presentation because I thought that would be like another 5 hours. So I did the training, and at the end of it, the entire team said, you should teach everyone this. And they said, because we want people who know this on the other side of our transaction. So it got this thought in my head, let me put up an ad and put out a message to the agents in our area and say, hey, I'll give you this 5-hour training as a pay it forward event. And, I've had really bad starts with buyers, bringing in buyer seminars. I just haven't had a lot of luck. I have 12 people registered in a day and a half. So your concept of this, how you give the pay it forward and how you message it and such, certainly resonates. And I was just looking as around the call and I was stunned that 12 have already registered.
Right. And the thing is, your intention is really not, it's not like, hey, if I don't get 2 or 3 of these people to join in the next 90 days, it was a failure. But it is that you're just putting out good energy that's going to have a long-term impact on building your business. So look at, I know we strayed off a little bit the win by noon, but if we have a timeline that we want to feel like we've accomplished the majority of our goal for the day, let's keep that top of mind. And I think that will help the team members so that when things happen during the day, they can say, hey, I can address that afternoon when I finish my appointments. and then they can have one a day every day. And, hopefully winning the day is, having a goal 5 years from now that includes 3 small wins or 5 small wins along the way. And, 5 years from now, they're going to say that all of us as team leaders impacted their career and their life in a positive way. So thank you, everybody. You guys are the true pioneers on a Monday morning in the summer. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good day,
Bye, take care.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a great